Located between Canada and the United States is one of the largest bodies of fresh water in the world, Lake Superior. Lake Superior is the largest and deepest of the Great Lakes, and it's the first of the lakes in terms of water flow. Despite being the largest of the Great Lakes, it has the fewest number of people living on its shores, yet is one of the most important economically. Learn more about Lake Superior, the big lake they call Gitche Gumee, on this episode of Everything Everywhere Daily. This episode is sponsored by ButcherBox. September is upon us, which means the end of summer cookouts is fast approaching. However, the end of summer doesn't have to mean the end of getting together to eat with friends and family. With a subscription to ButcherBox, every month you can get the highest quality meats and seafood delivered directly to your door. In your monthly ButcherBox subscription, you can get 100% grass-fed and grass-finished beef, crate-free raised pork, pasture-raised heirloom breeds of chicken, sustainably caught wild seafood, and even grass-fed and grass-finished bison. All of their products have been certified by third parties and are free of additives, preservatives, hormones, and antibiotics. Start your subscription to ButcherBox and get the highest quality meats and seafoods delivered directly to your door. Sign up at butcherbox.com/daily and use code DAILY to get chicken breast, salmon, or ground beef free in every order for a year, plus 20% off your first order. This episode is sponsored by NerdWallet.
Nerds!
When it comes to general knowledge and history, you know I've got you covered. But who do you turn to when you need smart financial decisions? If your answer is NerdWallet, then you're absolutely right. And if it's not, let me change your mind. The nerds at NerdWallet have spent thousands of hours researching and reviewing over 1,300 financial products, and they have the tools you need to make smarter financial decisions. Looking for a credit card? Go beyond the basic comparisons, filter for features that matter to you, and read in-depth reviews. Ready to choose a high-yield savings account? Get access to exclusive deals and compare rates, bonuses, and more. House hunting? View today's top mortgage rates for your home sweet home. Make the Nerds your go-to resource for smart financial decisions. Head to nerdwallet.com/learn more. NerdWallet. Finance smarter. Disclosure. NerdWallet Compare Incorporated, NMLS 1617539. The story of Lake Superior begins well before humans ever gazed upon it. In fact, before humans ever even existed. Lake Superior is situated in the region known as the Canadian Shield, a massive area of ancient bedrock that dates back to the pre-Cambrian era about 1.1 billion years ago. The Canadian Shield is the location of some of the oldest exposed rocks on Earth. One of the most significant geological events during this time was the formation of the Mid-Continent Rift System, a massive crack in the Earth's crust that stretched from what is now Lake Superior all the way down to the state of Kansas. This rift was caused by tectonic forces pulling the continent apart, which created deep valleys and filled them with molten rock. This magma cooled and solidified into basalt, forming the foundation of what would later become Lake Superior's basin. After the rifting ceased, the area underwent a period of millions of years of uplift and erosion. Over these millions of years, sedimentary rocks such as sandstone were deposited over the ancient volcanic rock, creating diverse geologic landscapes. Now fast forward to the Quaternary period, which started about 2.5 million years ago. This began an era of periodic ice ages. The current shape of Lake Superior was primarily sculpted during the last ice age. As glaciers advanced and retreated across North America, they scoured the land, carving out deep basins in the bedrock. About 10,000 years ago, as the glaciers began to retreat at the end of the last glacial period, massive meltwater lakes started to form. The largest of these glacial lakes was Glacial Lake Duluth, a precursor to modern Lake Superior. Lake Duluth was smaller and was located in what is today the western lobe of Lake Superior. As the ice sheets melted, water levels fluctuated, and the landscape rebounded from the removal of the weight of the glaciers, a process known as isostatic rebound, slowly giving rise to the lake's modern shape. Isostatic rebound is still ongoing in regions that were covered by ice during the last ice age. The southern shore of Lake Superior on the American side is rising ever so slightly faster than the northern shore on the Canadian side. Over the last several thousand years, Lake Superior's water levels began to stabilize, leading to its present form. Now resting in the ancient rift valley created by the Mid-Continent Rift System, the lake holds about 10% of all the world's fresh surface water. Lake Superior has a surface area of 82,100 square kilometers or 31,700 square miles. This would make it the largest freshwater lake in the world by area. And I should note, the Caspian Sea is larger, but it isn't quite a freshwater lake because it has brackish water with 1.2% salinity, not freshwater. On some lists it will be listed, and on others it will not. At its deepest point, Lake Superior is 1,333 feet or 406 meters deep due to the erosion of the glaciers and the depth of the ancient Mid-Continent Rift System. It's only the 42nd deepest lake in the world. Lake Baikal and lakes along the East African Rift, such as Lake Tanganyika, are all much deeper. In terms of volume, it ranks just behind Baikal and Tanganyika for freshwater lakes. However, it holds more water than the other four Great Lakes put together. Another measure of a lake is retention time. Retention time is the amount of time water spends in a lake. It's determined by dividing the lake's volume by its water outflow. The other Great Lakes have retention times ranging from 2.6 years for Lake Erie to 99 years for Lake Michigan. Lake Superior's retention time is 191 years due to its volume and the fact that it has only one outflow, the St. Mary River. More on that in a bit. Human history around Lake Superior dates back to at least 10,000 years, soon after the glaciers retreated. Indigenous peoples, particularly the Ojibwa, have lived in the Lake Superior region for thousands of years, relying on its abundant resources for food, transportation, and spiritual significance. The lake's water and surrounding forest provided sustenance, while its shores became important trade routes for indigenous people moving goods like copper, furs, and tools. And just as an aside, in the Gordon Lightfoot song The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, he uses the line that I used in the introduction. He says, "The big lake they call Gitche Gumee." This is actually a slight mispronunciation of the Ojibwa word Gitche Gumee, which translates to the Great Sea. If you lived in a landlocked part of the world and came upon Lake Superior, then it would certainly seem like a great sea. The Gitche Gumee pronunciation actually comes from Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, who used it in the poem The Song of Hiawatha. The first Europeans to explore Lake Superior were French explorers and fur traders. In the early 1600s, Etienne Brulé is credited as being the first European to see Lake Superior. By the mid-1600s, other French explorers visited the region and recognized the lake's importance for fur trading. Lake Superior played a key role in the fur trade during the 17th and 18th centuries. French traders established trading posts along its shores, and the lake became a major part of the transportation route known as the Voyageurs' Highway, which connected Montreal to the interior of North America. Following the British acquisition of New France in North America in 1763 and the establishment of the United States, settlers began to move into the Lake Superior region. After the War of 1812, a new border was established through the lake in 1817. The United States established Fort Brady in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, which was located on the rapids in the St. Mary River, the choke point for access into or out of Lake Superior by water. The discovery of large deposits of copper and iron ore around Lake Superior in the mid-1800s led to a mining boom. The Keweenaw Peninsula, located on the southern shore of Lake Superior, became one of the most productive copper mining regions in the world. Iron mining also became crucial in the Mesabi Range near Lake Superior's western shore in Minnesota and in the Marquette Range in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. These mining activities transformed the region economically and socially, drawing thousands of immigrants, especially from Europe, to work in the mines and the surrounding industries. It also necessitated the creation of a system of locks so ships could bypass the rapids on the St. Mary River that connects Lake Superior with Lake Huron. The first lock was built on the Canadian side of the river as early as 1798. However, it was a very simple lock designed only for the fur trade. The United States destroyed it in 1814 as part of the War of 1812. With growing copper and iron production, the United States next built a lock in 1853. As of the time of this recording, there are currently 3 locks that allow access through the rapids in the St. Mary River in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, and in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Each lock will take ships up or down 21 feet or 6.4 meters to avoid the St. Mary's Rapids. There is one smaller Canadian lock which is currently used for smaller craft and pleasure vessels. The American side has 2 locks, the Poe lock built in 1896 and the MacArthur lock built in 1943, which are used for larger ore haulers. There is a 3rd lock on the American side which is currently under construction. It is expected to be complete in 2030 and will replace 2 older locks that were decommissioned in 2010. The Soo locks are what allow all of Lake Superior to be accessible to the Great Lakes Seaway navigation system. From there, you can go through Lake Huron to Lake Ontario to Lake Erie and then the St. Lawrence Seaway. This effectively makes the port of Duluth, Minnesota, the westernmost Atlantic Ocean port. There are approximately 10,000 ships that pass through the Soo locks every year. Because of how far north it is, there aren't any major cities on Lake Superior like you see on the other Great Lakes. The largest city on Lake Superior is Thunder Bay, Ontario, which has a population of a little over 100,000. As a tourist attraction, Lake Superior differs from other Great Lakes as well. For starters, the lake is cold. Very cold. The average temperature of the lake water year-round is about 40 degrees Fahrenheit or 4 degrees Celsius. Yet the lake has never totally frozen over in recorded human history, but there have been years when the ice cover has reached about 95%. Because of the enormous volume of water, it retains a lot of latent heat even though it has a low temperature. I suppose you could technically go swimming in Lake Superior, but most people don't do it. Lake Superior is also the cleanest of the Great Lakes. This has resulted in exceptional clarity. In parts of the lake, there is underwater visibility up to 27 feet or 8.2 meters. Several notable protected areas are in or around the lake. On the Canadian side is Pakasaw National Park. It's one of the most remote parks in Ontario, far away from the populated parts of the province. In Wisconsin is the Apostle Islands National Lakeshore. It's a group of 21 islands and a stretch of shoreline along Lake Superior in northern Wisconsin, known for stunning sea caves, old-growth forests, and historic lighthouses. In the Upper Peninsula of Michigan is Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore. It's renowned for its striking multicolored sandstone cliffs, waterfalls, and pristine beaches. But perhaps the crown jewel of Lake Superior is Isle Royale National Park, the largest island in the lake. Technically, it's part of Michigan, even though it is much closer to both Minnesota and Ontario. The real reason why it is part of Michigan instead of Minnesota has to do with the deal which made the city of Toledo part of the state of Ohio. Isle Royale is the least visited national park outside of Alaska, and oddly enough, it is the most revisited park in the National Park Service. The reason why it gets so few visitors is because it's an island that requires a ferry ride to get there, and it's the only park outside of Alaska that closes during the winter. Isle Royale is almost entirely wilderness. One of the things it's well known for is its population of moose and wolves. At some point over a century ago, some moose and wolves made it to the island during a particularly harsh winter when the lake froze between it and the mainland. The moose and wolves have lived in a textbook-like case of predators and prey on the island. When the moose population rose, it soon followed by a rise in the wolf population, which would then decrease the moose population, which would subsequently reduce the wolf population. Because everything took place on an island that had no other megafauna, researchers could track the population of moose and wolves every year. Many people make the popular trip of circumnavigating the entire lake. The Lake Superior Circle Tour is a route that will take you 1,300 miles, or about 2,000 kilometers, and require 2 border crossings. Lake Superior remains culturally and economically important to both the United States and Canada. Its status as one of the largest and most important freshwater lakes in the world is all due to the geologic forces that created it millions of years ago. The executive producer of Everything Everywhere Daily is Charles Daniel. The associate producers are Benji Long and Cameron Kieffer. I want to give a big shout out to everyone who supports the show over on Patreon, including the show's producers. Your support helps me put out a show every single day. And also, Patreon is currently the only place where Everything Everywhere daily merchandise is available to the top tier of supporters. If you'd like to talk to other listeners of the show and members of the Completionist Club, you can join the Everything Everywhere Daily Facebook group or Discord server. Links to everything are in the show notes.